The marketplace smelled like 1,000 different worlds mixed together. Liam walked through the crowded pathways of Orion 7 station, carrying a box of metal screws his father needed. Aliens of every shape and size moved around him, speaking languages that buzzed, clicked, and hummed. He had lived here for 3 years now, ever since his father took the mechanic job, and he still found something new to see every day. A small sound made him stop. It was soft, almost lost in the noise of the busy market. Liam turned and saw a young dragon sitting against the wall outside a fancy toy shop. The dragon child was tiny, maybe reaching up to Liam's chest if she stood. Her scales were deep purple with silver spots, and her wings were folded tight against her back. She was crying, holding something broken in her small, clawed hands. Liam had never seen a Dravix child before. Adult Dravix were huge and scary-looking, with teeth like knives and wings that could knock down walls. But this little one just looked sad and lost. She stared at the broken toy in her hands, tears running down her snout and dripping onto the metal floor. He walked closer slowly, not wanting to scare her. The toy looked like a bird mixed with a spaceship, made of silver metal with delicate wings. One wing was bent badly, and the whole thing hung limp in her grip like a dead thing. The door of the toy shop opened, and a tall alien with 4 arms and a body that looked like living crystal stepped out. Liam recognized him. Quilnoth was famous on the station for making the most beautiful toys in 3 sectors. Rich families paid huge amounts to buy his creations. "I told you already, little beast," Quilnoth said in a cold voice. "That trash is beneath my skills. Human-made garbage mixed with your kind's primitive crystals. Take it somewhere else." The dragon child looked up at him with hope in her big golden eyes. "Please," she whispered in broken galactic common, "Mama's bird, please fix. Your mama should have bought you a proper toy, not this mixed species nonsense." Quilnoth waved one of his hands dismissively. "Now leave before you drive away my real customers." He went back inside and closed the door. The little dragon made a choking sound and started crying harder. Aliens walked past her without stopping. Some glanced at her with pity, but no one helped. Everyone was too busy with their own problems. Liam felt something twist in his chest. His own mother had died 4 years ago, back on Earth, and he still remembered how it felt when her things broke. Every lost piece felt like losing her again. He knelt down next to the dragon child, setting his box of screws aside. "Hey," he said softly, "can I see?" She looked at him with wet eyes, confused. Humans were still pretty new to most aliens out here. She probably had never talked to one before. But after a moment, she held out the broken toy with shaking hands. Liam took it carefully. Up close, he could see it was actually amazing work. The metal had tiny patterns carved into it, so small he could barely see them. Inside the bird's body, he spotted gears and wires mixed with a glowing crystal that flickered weakly. Someone had spent a lot of time making this, combining human engineering with Dravix power sources. It must have been incredibly difficult. The bent wing was the obvious problem, but Liam could see more issues. The gears inside were jammed with something. The crystal was loose in its socket, not connecting properly to the wires. The whole thing looked like it had been dropped hard. "My papa fixes things," Liam said, speaking slowly and using simple words. He made hand gestures, pointing at the toy, then at himself, then making a fixing motion. "I help him. Maybe we fix this." The dragon child tilted her head, trying to understand. Liam pulled out his pocket tablet and brought up a simple translation program. He typed quickly and showed her the screen. The words appeared in Dravix symbols that glowed orange. Her eyes went wide. "You fix Mama's bird." "I try," Liam said honestly. He stood up and offered his hand. "Come." She stared at his hand for a long moment. In Dravix culture, touching a stranger was a big deal, his father had told him once. But she was a child, scared and sad, and she wanted her toy back. She reached out and put her small, clawed hand in his. Her scales felt warm and smooth, like sun-heated stone. Liam picked up his box of screws with his other hand and started walking. The dragon child followed close to his side, still holding his hand tight. They moved through the marketplace together, a human boy and a dragon child, while hundreds of aliens went about their business around them. His father's shop was 3 levels down in the cheaper section of the station. The rent was lower there, and the customers were mostly ordinary working people instead of rich traders, but his father always said honest work was more important than fancy clients. Liam hoped he was right, because fixing this toy felt like the most important thing in the world right now. The little dragon looked up at him as they walked, and for the first time since he found her, she had stopped crying. She had hope in her eyes instead. Liam just hoped he could actually help. The toy looked complicated, and if the great Quillnoth called it impossible, maybe it really was. But his father always said every machine made sense if you looked at it the right way. And besides, when someone needed help, you tried. That was just what you did. They reached the elevator that would take them down to the lower levels. The dragon child squeezed his hand a little tighter as the doors opened. Liam squeezed back, trying to tell her without words that everything would be okay. He really hoped he was right. David looked up from the engine part he was cleaning when the shop door opened. His son walked in with a dragon child holding his hand, and David nearly dropped his wrench. In 12 years of raising Liam, his boy had brought home many surprising things, but never an alien child who could probably bite through steel. "Dad," Liam said, slightly out of breath from the walk. "This is, He looked down at the dragon child and realized he did not know her name. He typed quickly on his tablet and showed it to her. "Ressa," she said quietly, her voice high and musical. "This is Ressa. Her toy broke and the Toymaker upstairs would not fix it." Liam held up the broken birdship. "I think we can help." Before David could answer, heavy footsteps shook the floor. A massive dragon, easily 8 feet tall, ducked through the doorway. His scales were black with red edges, and his eyes glowed like hot coals. He wore some kind of official uniform with symbols that David recognized as Dravik's military markings. "Ressa," the big dragon's voice boomed through the small shop, making tools rattle on their hooks. Then he saw his daughter holding a human boy's hand and froze. "What is happening here?" Ressa ran to him, speaking rapidly in her own language. She showed him the broken toy, pointed at Liam, and kept talking in an urgent, hopeful voice. The big dragon, who David guessed was her guardian or father, listened with his head tilted. His expression was hard to read, but his body language relaxed slightly. "I am Vrax," he said in accented but clear Galactic common. "Ressa says you offered to repair her toy. The Toymaker Quillnoth refused us." "He did more than refuse," Liam said, and David heard anger in his son's voice. "He was mean about it, called it trash." Vrax's eyes narrowed and a low rumble came from his throat. "I see, and you believe you can fix what a master craftsman will not touch." "I do not know," Liam said honestly, "but I want to try." David stepped forward, wiping his hands on his work cloth. "Sir, I am David, Liam's father. We run a simple repair shop here. I have to be honest with you. If Quillnoth says something cannot be fixed, there might be a good reason. We are just mechanics, not artists." "My mate made this toy," Vrax said quietly, and David heard the pain in those words. "Before she died 6 months ago, she was part of a cultural exchange program with your people. She learned human engineering and combined it with our crystal technology. This toy was her gift to Ressa. It is the last thing we have of her work." The shop went silent except for the hum of the air recyclers. David looked at his son and saw determination in Liam's face. That same stubborn look he got whenever someone said something was impossible. David had tried to teach his son that sometimes impossible meant impossible, but Liam never seemed to learn that lesson. "Let the boy try," Vrax said. "Please, she has not spoken more than a few words since her mother died. But today, when your son offered to help, she spoke in full sentences. That alone is worth something." David nodded slowly. "Liam, take it to your bench. Let me finish up this repair job and I will help you look at it." But Liam was already moving to his corner of the shop, where David had set up a small workbench for him. It was covered with half-finished projects, old circuit boards, and hand tools sized for smaller hands. Liam cleared a space and set the toy down carefully under his work light. Ressa followed him like a shadow, watching every movement. Vrax started to follow too, but David caught his arm gently. "Let them work," David said. "Coffee." Vrax looked surprised, then nodded. "Yes, thank you." David poured 2 cups from the machine in the corner. The coffee was terrible, made from synthetic beans that tasted like burned plastic, but it was hot, and it gave them something to do with their hands. They sat on the battered old couch. David kept for waiting customers. "How long have you been on this station?" Vrax asked. 3 years. After my wife died, I needed a change. Thought raising a boy in space would be better than raising him alone on Earth." David sipped his coffee and tried not to make a face. "You." 2 years now. I am a diplomatic courier. I carry messages between our government and the Galactic Council. After my mate died, I could not leave Ressa with anyone else, so she travels with me." Vrax watched his daughter lean close to Liam's workbench, her golden eyes reflecting the light. "She used to laugh all the time. Now she barely speaks." "Grief is hard on kids," David said softly. "Liam did not talk much for almost a year after his mother passed, just worked on machines with me in silence. I think fixing broken things helped him feel less broken inside." They sat together, 2 fathers who had lost their mates, watching their children at the workbench. Liam was explaining something to Ressa, his hands moving as he talked. He had taken the toy completely apart, laying each piece out in careful rows. Ressa was nodding, making small sounds of understanding. "Your son is kind," Vrax said. "Kindness is not common in the galaxy, especially not to strangers." "He gets it from his mother," David replied. "She always said that helping others was never a waste of time, even if you got nothing back for it. My mate said similar things about humans. She believed your people had something special, a quality many other species had lost." Vrax finished his terrible coffee. "I thought it was just idealism, but watching your son with my daughter, I wonder if she was right." A small crowd had started to gather outside the shop window. Word traveled fast on a station this size. People were curious about the human boy trying to fix what Quilnoth had refused. David saw aliens of 6 different species pressing their faces to the glass, whispering to each other. This was either going to go very well or very badly. David just hoped his son knew what he was doing. Liam ignored the faces pressed against the shop window. He had learned from his father that good work required focus, and right now, the only thing that mattered was the pieces laid out on his workbench. Each part told a story if you knew how to listen. The bent wing was aluminum titanium alloy, incredibly light but strong. He could fix that with the right tools. The gears were standard size, made on Earth probably, but they had been jammed with some kind of crystalline dust. That explained why the toy had stopped moving. But the real problem sat in the center of everything, a Dravix energy crystal about the size of his thumb. "This is what makes it fly?" Liam asked Ressa, pointing at the crystal. She nodded eagerly. "Mama said crystals remember. They remember how to dance, how to spin, how to make light." Her galactic common was getting better as she relaxed. But now it forgot. Liam picked up the crystal carefully. It was warm to the touch and had a faint internal glow, like a dying ember. According to what his father had taught him, Dravix crystals stored energy in ways human batteries could not match. But they needed specific frequencies to charge and discharge properly. The human-made electronics in this toy were not designed to work with alien power sources. "Your mama was very smart," Liam said, studying how she had tried to bridge the 2 technologies. There were tiny adapter circuits, hand-soldered wires connecting crystal to metal. She made something new, something nobody else has. "Can you make it work again?" Ressa asked, her voice small and scared. "I think so." Liam hoped he sounded more confident than he felt. "But I need to understand both parts first, the human part and the Dravix part." The shop door opened, bringing in more curious aliens. A tall insectoid being clicked into the shop, followed by a floating blob of what looked like living water. They joined Vrax and David on the couch, all watching Liam work. The crowd outside had grown even bigger. Liam heard someone say he will fail in Galactic Common. Another voice replied, of course he will fail. Quillnoth himself said it was impossible. Ressa's ears drooped at those words. Liam reached over and touched her hand gently. Do not listen to them. Watch what I do instead. He started with the wing, using a small torch to heat the metal carefully. His father had shown him this technique with airplane models back on Earth. Heat the metal just enough to make it flexible, then shape it slowly, then let it cool in the right position. Too much heat and it would weaken. Too little and it would not bend. It took patience. The wing straightened slowly under his hands. Ressa made a happy chirping sound when she saw it returning to the proper shape. Liam smiled. That was one problem solved. Next came the gears. He cleaned each one with solvent and a tiny brush, removing all the crystal dust that had gotten inside. The dust glittered under his work light, pretty but destructive. Once the gears were clean, he tested them by hand. They spun smoothly now, clicking together the way they were supposed to. You are wasting everyone's time, human. The voice cut through the murmur of the crowd. Liam looked up and saw Quillnoth standing in the doorway. The Toymaker's crystalline body caught the light, making him look like he was made of diamonds. He carried himself like someone very important, his 4 arms crossed over his chest. That device is fundamentally flawed, Quillnoth continued, walking into the shop like he owned it. The human electronics and Dravik's crystal technology are incompatible. I could explain the science to you, but you would not understand it. You are a child playing with tools. Then why are you here? David asked, his voice calm but hard. If it is such a waste of time. Because word has spread through the station that a human boy is attempting what I refused. It makes me look bad. Quillnoth stared at the toy pieces on Liam's bench. When he fails, people will understand why I did not waste my time, but I wanted to explain personally why this cannot work. Maybe it cannot work the way you would do it, Liam said quietly, still focused on the toy. But there might be another way. Quillnoth laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Arrogant child, do you know how many years I have studied crystal engineering, how many master craftsmen taught me their secrets, and you think you can succeed where I knew better than to try? I am not trying to be better than you, Liam said, looking up at the Toymaker. I am just trying to help Ressa. That is different. Something in those words made Quillnoth's expression shift. For just a moment he looked uncertain. Then his face hardened again. Fine, waste your time, but when you fail and damage that toy beyond any repair, remember that I warned you. He turned to leave, but paused at the door. The crystal and the circuits speak different languages. You cannot make them understand each other, no matter how clever you think you are. After he left, the shop felt quieter, like his words had sucked out all the air. Ressa looked up at Liam with worry in her eyes. Even Vrax seemed doubtful now, his earlier hope fading. But Liam stared at the crystal in his hand and thought about what Quillnoth had said. Different languages. That was exactly right. The crystal and the circuits did not speak the same language, so they needed a translator, something that could take the crystal's energy and convert it into something the human electronics could use. He started digging through his father's spare parts bin, looking for specific pieces. His mind was racing now, seeing the solution like a picture in his head. He needed a voltage regulator, some resistors, and a specific type of transformer. Small pieces, simple pieces, but arranged in the right way. What are you doing? David asked, walking over. Making a translator, Liam said, pulling out components. If they cannot talk to each other, someone needs to help them communicate. His father looked at the pieces, then at his son's face, and slowly smiled. Show me. The adapter took shape under Liam's careful hands. It was smaller than his pinky finger, a tiny bridge made of human components arranged in a specific pattern. His father helped him solder the connections, his bigger hands steadier for the delicate work. Together, they created something that had never existed before, a piece of technology that could speak 2 languages at once. This is either brilliant or completely wrong, David muttered, examining their work through a magnifying glass. Only one way to find out. The shop had gone completely silent. Even the crowd outside had stopped whispering. Everyone watched as Liam placed the adapter into the toy's body, connecting it between the Dravix crystal and the human circuitry. His hands were shaking slightly. He had been so sure of the idea, but now, faced with the actual moment of truth, doubt crept in. What if Quilnoth was right? What if this was impossible and he was just making it worse? Ressa's mother had made this toy with love and skill, and if Liam broke it beyond repair, he would destroy the last piece of her that Ressa had left. "You can do this," Ressa whispered beside him. She had been quiet for the last hour, watching every step. Now she reached out and touched his arm gently with one claw. "I believe you." Those words steadied him. Liam took a breath and continued working. He reconnected all the wires, placed the crystal in its socket, and carefully reassembled the cleaned gears. The bent wing, now straight again, clicked into place with a satisfying sound. Every piece went back where it belonged, until the birdship looked whole again. "Here goes nothing," Liam said. He pressed the small activation button on the toy's underside. For 3 long seconds, nothing happened. The crowd outside groaned with disappointment. Vrax closed his eyes, and even David looked sad. Quilnoth had been right after all. It was impossible. Then the crystal began to glow. It started as a flicker, barely visible, like a candle about to go out. But instead of dying, the light grew stronger. The glow spread through the translucent parts of the toy, making it look like it was filled with liquid gold. The gears began to turn with a soft whirring sound. The wings, both of them perfect now, started to move. The toy birdship lifted off from the workbench. It rose slowly, steadily, hovering in the air at eye level. For a moment it just floated there, and Liam worried that was all it would do. But then it began to move. It spun in a graceful circle, wings beating in a rhythm that looked almost alive. It climbed higher, nearly touching the ceiling, then dove down in a smooth arc that made several people gasp. Ressa made a sound Liam had never heard before, something between a laugh and a musical note. She jumped up, her small wings flaring out, and clapped her clawed hands together. "Mama's bird, it flies, it remembers." The toy responded to her voice, or maybe to her joy. It began doing tricks, loops and spirals and sudden stops that hung in the air. Then tiny holographic stars began to appear around it, projecting from hidden emitters in its body. The stars sparkled and danced, creating patterns that made the whole shop glow with gentle light. It was more beautiful than Liam had imagined. This was not just a toy. This was art and love and skill all combined into something magical. Ressa spoke in her own language, words Liam could not understand but felt anyway. She was talking to the toy like it was alive, like it could carry messages to her mother wherever she was now. Tears ran down her scaled face, but she was smiling, really smiling, for the first time since Liam had met her. Vrax stood up from the couch. The huge dragon warrior crossed the room in 3 steps and knelt down in front of Liam. Before Liam could move, Vrax pressed his forehead against Liam's forehead. The dragon's scales were warm, and Liam could feel a faint vibration like a purr coming from deep. In Vrax's chest, "You have given my daughter her voice back," Vrax said, his own voice thick with emotion. "You have honored my mate's memory and skill. In my culture, this creates a debt that cannot be repaid. You are family now, small human. If ever you need anything, anything at all, the clan of Vrax will answer." "I just fixed a toy," Liam said, overwhelmed by the intensity of the moment. "You did more than that?" Vrax pulled back and looked at him with those burning coal eyes. "You saw a child in pain and you helped even though you gained nothing from it, even though you did not know if you could succeed. That is courage. That is honor." The aliens in the shop erupted in conversation. Some were excited, some confused, some amazed. The crowd outside was pressing even harder against the window, trying to see the flying toy. Liam heard someone say, "The human boy did it," in a tone of disbelief. David put his hand on Liam's shoulder and squeezed. He did not say anything, but Liam could see the pride in his father's eyes. That meant more than all the amazed aliens put together. The shop door burst open with enough force to rattle the walls. Quilnoth stood there, his crystalline body rigid with anger. "This is a trick," That toy cannot possibly work. The boy must have replaced it with something else or used some kind of illusion. Come see for yourself, David said calmly, gesturing at the workbench. All the pieces and tools were still laid out, showing exactly what Liam had done. The tiny adapter sat there too, visible proof of the bridge between technologies. Quilnoth stormed over and snatched up the adapter. He examined it closely, turning it over in his hands. His expression changed from anger to confusion to something that might have been respect, then back to anger again. This is crude, he said, but his voice had lost some of its certainty. Amateur work. Amateur work that accomplished what you said was impossible, said a new voice from the doorway. Everyone turned to see an elderly alien entering the shop. She was reptilian, with scales that had faded to pale green with age, and she moved slowly but with great dignity. Her eyes were sharp and intelligent, missing nothing. Sarth, Quilnoth said, and Liam heard fear in his voice. I did not expect to see you here. Clearly, the old alien said. 3 days passed and Ressa's toy still flew perfectly. The little dragon carried it everywhere, talking to it constantly in a mixture of Dravix and Galactic common. She had started singing again, her father told David with tears in his eyes, something she had not done since her mother died. But not everyone was happy about what had happened. David's shop had become impossibly busy. Families lined up outside every morning, bringing broken toys and devices that other craftsmen had refused to repair. Many were mixed-species designs like Ressa's toy, things that combined different technologies in ways that confused traditional repairers. Others were just old or cheap, beneath the dignity of guild-certified craftsmen. Liam worked from morning until evening, fixing what he could. A 10th child's music box that played songs from 3 different worlds. A human girl's robotic pet that had Zellian AI programming. A floating game board that used both Earth magnetism and Corvian gravity manipulation. Each repair taught him something new about how different species approached engineering. But on the 4th day, an official message arrived. The station administrator wanted to see David and Liam immediately. The Toymakers Guild had filed a formal complaint. This is bad, David said as they walked through the station's upper levels toward the administrative offices. Guild law is very strict. We might get fined or shut down. I just helped people, Liam protested. How is that wrong? You are not licensed. You are not certified by any official body. Technically, you broke a lot of rules, David sighed. Good intentions do not always protect you from consequences. The administrator's office was large and cold, filled with screens showing different parts of the station. Administrator Nelvix sat behind a curved desk, their slug-like body pulled up to its full height. Nelvix's species communicated mostly through color changes in their skin, but they had learned to speak Galactic Common for their job. Quilnoth stood to one side, looking smug. Next to him was another 10th in fancy robes, probably a guild official. On the other side of the room, Vrax stood in his military uniform, arms crossed, looking angry enough to bite through steel. This is a simple matter of law, Quilnoth said as soon as David and Liam entered. The boy performed unlicensed repairs. Guild regulations clearly state that only certified craftsmen may accept payment for repair work. I have documentation of that. Least 30 violations in the past 3 days. We have not charged anyone, David said. Every repair was free. Free or not, it is still illegal. The regulations exist to protect the public from poor quality work. Quilnoth gestured at Liam dismissively. A child cannot possibly meet professional standards. Yet his work has not failed, Vrax rumbled. My daughter's toy functions perfectly. The other families I have spoken to say the same. Perhaps your professional standards are not as important as you believe. Administrator Nelvix's skin flashed yellow, a sign of deep thought. The law is clear. Unlicensed repair work is prohibited. However, the intent of the law is to prevent harm, not to prevent help. Their skin shifted to orange, indicating uncertainty. This is complicated. It is not complicated at all, said the guild official in fancy robes. Rules exist for a reason. If we allow every amateur with tools to call themselves a repairer, the entire system collapses. Professional standards matter. Professional standards, Vrax said, his voice dropping to a dangerous growl, said my daughter's toy was unfixable. Professional standards turned away a grieving child. Perhaps your system has already collapsed and you simply have not noticed. Before the argument could escalate further, the door opened again. An old Tenthrax female entered, moving slowly but with undeniable authority. Sarth, the same elder who had visited David's shop 3 days ago. Everyone in the room straightened up immediately. I have been listening to the complaints, Sarth said, settling herself into a chair that adjusted to her body shape. Quilnoth, you claim the boy's work is substandard. It is amateur work at best, Quilnoth replied, though he sounded less confident now. Crude and simplistic. I examined his adapter design personally. It shows an intuitive understanding of cross-species engineering that many of our guild masters lack. Sarth's old eyes fixed on Quilnoth. Tell me, why did you refuse to repair the toy? Because it was beneath my skills, a jumbled mess of incompatible technologies. Or because it would have required you to learn something new, to admit that your knowledge has limits. Sarth's words hung in the air like a challenge. I have been a guild member for 60 years. I have watched us become more concerned with status than with service. We refuse difficult work and call it maintaining standards. We turn away customers and call it protecting our time. When did we forget that the purpose of skill is to help others? The guild official in fancy robes looked uncomfortable. Elder Sarth, surely you are not suggesting we abandon all quality control. I am suggesting we remember what quality means. This boy created something new because he was not limited by assumptions about what could not be done. He helped because he saw someone in need, not because he calculated profit or status. Sarth turned to Administrator Nelvix. The law requires a licensed professional. I propose we grant the boy a provisional apprentice license under my personal sponsorship. He can study formally while continuing to help others. This satisfies the law while acknowledging the value of what he has already accomplished. Quilnoth's crystalline body seemed to darken. You would sponsor a human child, give him guild status. I would sponsor anyone who demonstrates both skill and heart. When was the last time you repaired something for free, Quilnoth? When was the last time you accepted a difficult job just because it mattered to someone? Sarth's voice was gentle but cutting. You have great technical skill, but you have forgotten why that skill matters. The room fell silent. Administrator Nelvix's skin cycled through several colors before settling on blue, indicating decision. I find Elder Sarth's proposal acceptable. Liam will be granted a provisional apprentice license. The nominal fine for past violations will be 1 credit, acknowledging the technical breach while recognizing the extenuating circumstances. Quilnoth opened his mouth to protest, then closed it again. He had been outmaneuvered by someone too important to argue with. Without another word, he turned and left the office, the guild official following quickly behind. Vrax stepped forward and placed his hand on Liam's shoulder. Thank you, Elder Sarth. You have given this young one the recognition he deserves. I have given him an opportunity, Sarth corrected. What he does with it will determine if he deserves it. 2 months later, the memorial garden on Orion 7 station opened to the public. It occupied a small space on the observation level, where large windows showed the gas giant's swirling colors. Trees from 6 different worlds grew in careful harmony, their roots sharing soil in ways that should have been impossible. But somehow worked. At the center stood a sculpture. It was simple but beautiful, a representation of hands from different species reaching toward each other. Human hands, Dravix claws, Tenthrax crystal fingers, and others, all touching at a central point. Above them, suspended by nearly invisible wires and Liam's carefully designed adapter system, floated a mechanical birdship. It spun slowly, projecting gentle holographic stars across the garden. The dedication plaque read, "In memory of Sharax, who believed that different worlds could build one future together." Ressa stood next to the memorial with her father. She was bigger now, growing fast the way young dragons did. She spoke in full sentences every day, telling stories and asking questions and laughing with other children. But she still carried her toy birdship with her everywhere, and she still talked to it sometimes when she thought no one was listening. David and Liam stood with them, along with Sarth and dozens of other families whose lives had touched theirs over the past weeks. The garden was crowded but peaceful, filled with quiet conversation and the sound of water flowing in the alien fountain. "Your mate would be proud," David said to Vrax. "This memorial is perfect." "It was Ressa's idea," Vrax replied. "She wanted everyone to see that her mama's work was not just about toys, it was about connection." He looked at Liam. "And it was your son who helped us understand that." Liam felt embarrassed by the attention. He had just fixed a toy. Everything else that happened was because of other people's choices. But his father had explained that sometimes small actions created bigger ripples than anyone expected. Helping one crying child had led to all of this. The shop was different now, too. David had hired 2 assistants, both young aliens who wanted to learn the human approach to engineering. Liam split his time between working with his father and attending remote classes through his apprentice program. Sarth sent him assignments that made his brain hurt complex problems about integrating different technologies and understanding how various species thought about machines. But he loved it. Every challenge taught him something new. Every problem he solved helped someone in a real way. That felt important in a way that status or money never could. "Did you hear about Quilnoth?" Sarth asked, settling onto a bench designed for her body's shape. "He left the station last month, took a position on a mining colony where they care more about his technical skills than his attitude." "I heard," David said. "Some of his former customers have been coming to us instead. Apparently he charged huge amounts and took forever to finish jobs. Good work, but terrible service." "Skill without compassion is just performance," Sarth observed. "He will learn that lesson eventually, or he will not. Either way, it is his choice to make." A group of children ran through the garden, Ressa among them. She was playing with a Tenthrax boy and a human girl, showing them how her toy could do tricks. The other children watched with wonder, and Ressa glowed with the joy of sharing something precious. Vrax watched his daughter with soft eyes. "I was wrong about humans," he said quietly. "When I first came to this station, I thought your people were weak, too soft, too emotional, too willing to help others without calculating advantage first. I thought these were flaws." "And now," David asked. "Now I understand they are strengths, the greatest strength perhaps." Vrax turned to look at both David and Liam. "My people value power and honor. We respect those who can fight and win, but we had forgotten something important. True strength is knowing when not to fight. True honor is helping those who cannot pay you back." Liam thought about that. He remembered finding Ressa crying outside the toy shop, alone and sad. He could have walked past like everyone else. It would have been easier. But something inside him, something he learned from his parents, would not let him ignore someone who needed help. "My wife used to say that humans survived because they helped each other," David said. "Earth was a hard world. No single human could survive alone. So they learned to work together, to help strangers, to build communities where everyone contributed what they could. That instinct is still there, built into who we are. And it is what the galaxy needs," Sarth added. "Too many species reached the stars and then forgot how to care about anyone outside their own group. We became efficient but cold. Humans remind us of something we lost along the way." The sun was setting through the station's windows, painting the gas giant in shades of orange and gold. The mechanical birdship caught the light, its holographic stars mixing with the real ones becoming visible in space beyond. Ressa came running back to her father, breathless and happy. "Papa, can Liam come to dinner with us tonight, please?" Vrax looked at David, who nodded. "We would be honored," the dragon said. As they walked toward the garden exit, Liam looked back at the memorial one more time. The hands reaching toward each other, the flying toy, the trees from different worlds growing together. It was a reminder that different did not mean incompatible. It just meant you had to work a little harder to find the connections. His tablet beeped with a new message. Another family requesting help with a broken device. This one sounded complicated, a medical sensor that combined 4 different species technologies. It would take research and experimentation and probably some failures before he figured it out. Liam smiled and accepted the job. Behind him, the memorial birdship continued its endless dance, spinning through the holographic stars, proving that impossible was just a word people used before someone cared enough to try anyway. And in a shop 3 levels down, his workbench waited, covered with tools and parts and possibilities. Every machine had a logic, every problem had a solution, and every person, no matter how small, could make a difference by simply choosing to help when they saw someone in need. That was the human quality, not superior technology or greater intelligence. Just the stubborn, beautiful, sometimes frustrating habit of refusing to walk past someone who was hurting. And maybe, in a galaxy full of ancient civilizations and advanced technologies, that was exactly what everyone needed most.